Hello and welcome to the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. Now my guest today is Emma Willis, the German street shirt maker and tour de force behind the namesake brand that has won celebrity fans and critical acclaim alike. Vogue lauds Emma as representing inimitable English style, and the fan base doesn't stop there. They are reputed to include the Prince of Wales, Benedict Cumberbatch, David Gandy and Daniel Craig, to name but four. And there's more. Emma is a highly respected campaigner and founder of the charity Style for Soldiers, which supports the lives of some of the bravest people in the country, our injured veterans. Emma, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Michael.
Now, in introducing Emma Willis, the company, GQ describes your brand in 3 words, quite helpfully as quality, quality, quality. So we get that bit.
Yep,
Tell us more about the business.
Very happy with that. Well, I started in the shirt business a long time ago, door-to-door selling clothes when I was trying to be an actress and artist, things like that. And so I set up my own little business when I was about 20 with a small workroom in London and selling my clothes without a shop, sort of UK and
Was it always
London.
shirts? Or?
It was always shirts, yes. I started in men's shirts. It was a time, so very boom times in the city, and so there were a lot of my friends were going into the city, and I thought that there possibly was a little niche to go and sell them to them in their offices.
So the first thing was opportunity. You saw opportunity that there was a business you could build. When did it turn into a passion?
It turned into passion when I had when I took over this little factory in New Cross, which is a tiny workroom, and I saw the skill of the ladies who were making the shirts and my cutter and the cutter at the time, and so that's when I suppose that's when I started to see the creative side of it and the skill and the importance when you make beautiful clothes. It's the people behind the clothes that is the magic.
Can you bring that craftsmanship to life? I mean, what makes a great shirt? Is it the cloth? Is it the cut? What's the
Cloth is absolutely fundamental, and a lot of people save money on fabric because it can look superficially the same. But beautiful quality cotton, in my case, we're mainly making cotton, is fundamental. The feel of it, no shrinking, it keeps its colour and it lasts a long time, and it's the pleasure of wearing it. And then how you make it, so small stitching, skilled, very neat stitching, real mother of pearl buttons, sewing on. So lots of detail.
So how does somebody who wants a career in music suddenly get to be really sort of passionate about all these sort of finer details? What drove you? I'm interested in the early stage entrepreneur right now.
It was very organic and accidental and slightly desperate because I actually started reading English at UCL. 5 weeks, went to the Slade School of Fine Art to read to study fine art. I transferred, and then they asked me to leave at the end of the year because I wasn't doing nearly enough work and I didn't warrant my position. I was singing in my band.
Singing in band, so too much time singing.
Yeah, too much time singing, and so that I was now out on the street with a rent to pay and no way of paying it and no qualifications, and the only job I could get in the back of the Evening Standard was I trawled through desperately, was a job selling clothes door to door.
Were these the ropey tweed skirts?
Yes, they were, the A-line tweed skirts. I didn't really want to be associated.
And men's shirts from the back of a car, I hear.
Well, yes, absolutely. One customer kindly asked me to go to his house and see all his friends. He had a big farm and he invited them all over, and I put a stall up on a windy day and they all came and bought shirts. But
now you're a German street fixture, you're selling shirts all over the world. When you look at the personal transformation, the transformation of you, the business person, tell us, are there stages you go through, or do you just effortlessly deal with it, do you think?
I don't think effortlessly, and there are obviously extremely stressful moments, and it does, but it has sort of very much sort of just developed. It's opportunity, you just can't miss an opportunity, and so it has taken a long time. I mean, it's 25 years or something now, but I have kept. I am determined, and I like to have a passion and something to be going for, and so I think just the fact that I've stuck at it is probably, I think, sticking at things.
Now, you say you'll only ever have one shop. That's a big part of what makes the brand special, and that you can take it digital. Is there a mistake when you diffuse the brand too much, do you think, when you're a special luxury brand in the same space as you?
I think it is. I mean, when I used to go to New York a lot to sell to my customers there before I had a shop, I always remember one of my amazing customers saying to me, it was a woman customer I made shirts for, and she said, Emma, darling, don't ever open up in New York. If you ever open up in New York, I'll never buy another thing from you.
Why?
Because she wanted one shop to go to London to have her, specialist shops. It was one particular brand that had opened a shop in New York, and she never bought from them again, much to their disappointment, I'm sure.
Do you feel that curtails the potential ambition of the company, or is that actually part of its secret source for growth?
That's the joy of the internet. I mean, there is potential to grow with one shop, and you can keep the essence. You've got the right staff, and it looks beautiful all the time. You keep the essence, but you can just, on the internet with the website, you can push out to as much of the world as you want. And
what proportion of your business is digital now?
It's about 20% on our website, but actually our wholesale, which is Mr. Porter, and actually we're launching on matches.com shortly. They're about 10% of our business, Mr. Porter is. So the wholesale online is really good potential as well.
Now, one big move was to take production to a townhouse in Gloucester. I hear it's called Downton by the team. Sounds like a great house. But you've moved into a very English setting for the production of those shirts. Has that been a big part of the story for you?
It has. I mean, when I always like to try and work in lovely surroundings for us all. It inspires you to have a particularly light, light and space is obviously a great thing. And I found a lovely place when we started in Gloucester, but that was when we were 5 people. And then we grew and grew, and so I needed to find somewhere bigger, and I walked past this beautiful 18th century townhouse one day, and it was for rent. It was a bit like the shop. It was an accident walking past it. And fell in love with the building, found out about it. It's not expensive property at Gloucester then. It's going up and up now. And so we rented it, and it's beautiful.
So both buildings have been accidents, but quite lucky accidents.
London, I came up. I had young children at the time. I thought I've got to put roots down, and so I came up to Jermyn Street. It was the only place I'd have wanted to be because of bespoke, and I'd only done bespoke up till then. And and there was this shop for rent, which was like fate because it is very rare in that end of the street.
And how have the established competition reacted to you? I mean, obviously you're dealing in men's shirts for the most part. I know you do women's wear now as well, but in terms of those early days where you look at some of the more established players, the Turnbull and Assers, the other sort of names on that street, how did they react to a young female upstart arriving on a very male street and saying, I'm here to do business?
Well, I knew the reason I felt confident about as far as being taken seriously was I knew pretty well every cutter on the street because I'd already had my own factory in London, small one, but and it's a very small world, the world of bespoke shirt making in London. So all the cutters knew me in the street, and they knew I'd been at it. I'd been in the shirt making business on the serious end of it, bespoke end, for a good 10 years. So I think I had credibility, and I'd worked for Turnbull and Asser for a year as well, running one of their women's shops. So that sorted my nice relationship up with them. And so yeah, it was okay. My customers, it was funny, the male customers, who a typical men's street, and had very traditional Englishmen came along on the first day, and I had women's and men's there, and I had this beautiful taffeta skirt in the window, a long taffeta skirt, and he was very conventional. He was wearing a sort of covert coat, and he popped his head around the door, and I thought, what's he going to say? And he said, that skirt in the window makes me wish I was a woman. so I thought, well, it's going to be all right here.
But he didn't buy the skirt, I presume. Now, one of the things you've talked a lot about is that Made in England needs to mean something. I mean, it's part of your brand. What does it mean to you?
Well, for me, it's the skill that we have. For me now, that we have in shirt making is one of the really respected crafts that we have. I really enjoy employing locally. I like to know the people that that I work with, and I like something that's authentic, and I'm proud to sell, and we're all proud to make. And so that for me, it's it's really, really important part of it. And I like to be able to keep a skill like shirt making going is fantastic.
I mean, we worry in these sort of days of Brexit and other things about how does the British brand translate when you're in that kind of luxury end of the market. Is it still seen as something that people want? People sort of have values for?
It really is. And I mean, 10 years ago in the men's fashion, the immense Italian brands were really leading. But happily in the last 10 years, the Made in England label and Made in Britain label has got stronger and stronger and more appreciated.
And if you were to look at the why, the reason why that brand has started to take off, what would you say? What are the clues, do you think, in terms of why it's so popular?
Well, I mean, I saw a change after the financial crash, because I think people were suddenly looking at perhaps buying more responsibly and buying less of things, but things that were going to last, and looking at the strength of the country and not feeling so confident that we were just going to go on being great and strong forevermore. So perhaps thinking, if I buy British, then I'm going to help the country.
So patriotic?
I think it was patriotic, actually. And it's great because it's made people look back inwards into the skills that we have. And we have so many great skills which are alive and kicking. Shoemaking, hat making, so many.
Right, we're going to go to the break and we're going to stick with the patriotism, because when we come back, we're going to move to another patriotic gesture, because we'll be talking about Emma's initiative in her work helping injured veterans through her charity Style for Soldiers, and a brand new exhibition that's starting in London. More of that very soon. Welcome back. My guest today is tailor and entrepreneur Emma Willis. Emma, now we talked about the business. Let's talk about Style for Soldiers. I've seen this develop over the years, but introduce Style for Soldiers to our viewers in terms of the initiative that you established back in 2008.
Yeah, 10 years ago, Christmas. Well, I had a programme on Radio 4, and it was interviewing a documentary inside the Military Rehabilitation Hospital, Headley Court in Epsom. And I was so moved by listening to these obviously very young soldiers talking, servicemen talking, and their injuries was obviously severe injuries. And
what were they saying?
Well, they were incredibly brave. They were describing their injuries. They were being asked about their injuries, and they had lost legs and arms and vision. And but the main thing the main thing that came out was the fear of leaving the forces. They obviously absolutely loved it. It was their friendships, it was their identity, it was their career. And so for them to have to leave the forces was the thing that they were afraid of. And you could tell that some of them had not had amazing education. They were really concerned about their next career.
So fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And anxiety, and often presumably pretty awful injury.
Yeah, and so you thought, well, how daunting can that be for a young, in this case, it was all young men.
So you established Style for Soldiers, and what was the goal? What did you bring to this in terms of the initiative?
Well, I thought, what can I do for them? And then it didn't take me long to, well, I can make them a bespoke shirt. I can go to the hospital. If I can get in the hospital, I can measure them and make them a bespoke shirt, whatever their injuries. And so that was my initial aim, which I managed. It took me a while to get into the hospital, but and you gave me a very helpful introduction, and I started to visit the hospital, and that was when having met them and getting to know them, and I asked the nurses straight away, should I ask them about their injuries? They said absolutely. That was shirts. Then I realised they needed, for new jobs, they needed, a year later, shoes. They needed suits, so I went to M&S, and M&S were given 750 suits. I went to Russell and Bromley. They've given many pairs of shoes. And then I wanted to give big reunion parties. I realised they really needed to get together again. Mr. Porter supported me to put on huge parties for them, and did photo shoots of them dressed up and looking.
So in terms of what this does for their lives, what does great clothing do when you're an injured veteran coming back into civilian life? What's the effect of that clothing?
Well, that was what I realised when I first went. I was so surprised. I thought it was just going to be like a gift I could give them. But I saw their excitement at choosing the fabrics. They were young, very young, handsome young guys at the peak of their fitness. And they were so excited to be deciding on a double cuff or a button cuff or a azure blue or a sky blue shirt. And I thought, it's so great that they've got that projecting themselves forward.
So this is self-esteem?
Yeah, self-esteem, and taking, pride in themselves, quite rightly. And so I thought, so that's what I realised that. And then I started to, and then it was their thank you letters. They wrote me so many amazing texts and messages saying, your shirt, I got your shirt for my job interview, I got the job, I pulled in your shirt, all this.
I read what somebody told you that they spent more less on a car than the shirt was worth. So
yeah, they like the
But you
price
feel
of my...
great, do you? I mean, is that one of the things that you're getting the feedback? Is that there's...
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's so humbling as well because them taking such trouble. I mean, their manner's incredible. So you go back from Headley Court and just think that, you know, that's the creme de la creme of our country. What incredible young men and women are serving our country, and that's what I've seen more and more. As I know sort of over 750 injured service personnel now, and I just never, you know, they are such incredible young people.
Is that message being heard? Do enough people know about, I guess, the sacrifice made, but also the potential still left in lives to realise?
I don't think we can, you know, realise it enough and do enough. I think, you know, the continuity of their lives after they leave the forces, when they have done so much for their country and they're so patriotic. Most of them, you know, join the forces because they're so patriotic, so they, you know, I think we should be looking after them into their next careers. I mean, that's the most important thing, to find new careers and support them into new careers.
Because when you started this initiative, I mean, you did run into quite a lot of closed doors in terms of a lot of people saying this, either this is not a good idea or they didn't want to get involved. In terms of now you look at it, you've brought really some fantastically powerful people to the table to help in this. In terms of the tipping point, the how, the why, what really got this moving, do you think?
I think it's just evolved and evolved and evolved. I think the way it's developed is I've taken my lead from the servicemen and women that I know and what they've needed at the next stage. And because it makes sense and it has benefited them, and I'm sure their voice and what the words they're saying that is what's given sort of credibility to the charity. And so we have gathered around us, therefore, some very powerful, influential people who can see that it genuinely is benefiting them.
And,
so
and this
help.
is no sideline for you now. I mean, this is a major commitment, part of your life. I mean, how do you make it work as an active person?
I think maybe my husband would ask us how we make the
What
marriage
would he say
work.
if he was sat here?
I am very full on it all the time, and I count it as a privilege that I can do this. And it does go very well with a business. I mean, it's all, you know, a lot of it is dressing and shirts and self-esteem through dressing. A lot of it is social, which is, you know, all part of the shop. The parties are incredibly part. We give the biggest party for injured service personnel each Christmas now. So it does mix well with the business.
And you've got a brand new initiative, a new exhibition, which is in London this month. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, again, it was a lead from the soldiers that I met who were painting, and then another man who wrote me a thank you poem for one of the parties. And so I put out a little email to everyone, who's writing, who's painting, and I discovered that a lot of them were using it as for therapy. It was a great way of ordering their emotions, putting it down on paper.
So creative expression. Yeah,
creative expression. And then I discovered through one of the exhibitors, Martin Wade, who's an ex-military lawyer, that he's extremely bright, and he explained to me that it actually through creative work, actually scientifically is proven to reroute the neurological pathways of the brain. So it actually, you know, if you are creative, it really does help heal your brain.
So this is all part of the positive agenda. And I hear that Charles Dance has actually taken on the script of one of the soldiers and is acting in something.
Yeah, so that was a classic between working well with the charity and the business. Charles Dance came into my shop for shirts about a couple of years ago.
And for those that don't remember Charles Dance, he's obviously a major A-list actor.
He certainly is.
Well, who doesn't remember Charles Dance? Great actor.
Yeah, I was very pleased when it was the Charles Dance, having made his appointment. And he saw a photograph of we have in the shop, Staff Soldiers, a lovely portrait of the soldiers. And he said, oh, you know, tell me about that, Emma. And he said, you know what, whatever I can do. And I said, well, there's actually a chap, Matt Weston, who's my ambassador, who is a triple amputee, and he is a mad keen Game of Thrones fan. It kept him going after his injury in his hospital. He just lived
and
for
he
Game
had
of
one
Thrones.
of the big stars of the show.
Yeah, so I said, would you ever meet Matt? And he said, absolutely, love to meet him. So he came along to the shop, Matt and Charles met at the shop. Matt bought a huge replica of the sword from the Game of Thrones. He brought on the tube in a large cardboard box in his wheelchair, and Charles Dance signed it. beware the Lannisters. And from then on, Charles has been involved, and he's always said, whatever I can do to help. And Matt asked him at the shop if he could act in his film, his short film.
Which he accepted?
Which he accepted.
Brilliant.
And, yeah, and we're showing the film as part of the exhibition.
So in terms of what people can see, the exhibition, tell us where is it and what are going to be some of the highlights?
Well, it's in Pall Mall at La Galleria, and it's going to be a combination. It is a combination of poetry. We've got one of the soldiers' poets. He's got about 700 poems on the wall. You can read. They are amazing. There is film, with short film that the various servicemen have put together, with Charles Dance featuring. We have 3 painters, one amazing abstract painter, and a landscape dog painter, and a portrait painter. And there are also amazing photographs of the servicemen from before, when they were in their injury in the hospital, to all dressed up in their clothes, and which they love doing. We've done several fashion shoots. So I mean, I'm featuring. You'll see. I'm basically profiling many of the young men and women I've met over these years, and so it's a celebration of them. It's positive, but it's about the healing power of creativity. And
do you find that it's good for your business as well? Do people like the brand more? Do they like what you stand for? Is that part of now what Emma Willis, the brand, is all about, as well as the activist?
I think it is, because my customers come to me because they love to wear nice clothes and they feel better in them, and so they understand, of course, exactly that just an 18-year-old injured soldier is obviously going to feel exactly the same way.
Right.
And I've had many people coming from the shop from all over the world, or ordering, saying that they've looked at great shirt brands in London, but they choose us because of what we're doing.
Of the purpose.
Yeah.
So very quickly, because we're almost out of time, but if I'm going to take you from ropey tweed to today's eponymous entrepreneur and charitable campaigner, what's the lesson of the Emma Willis life?
Well, I've managed to sort of muscle my way into the art world, haven't I, without any qualifications at all.
What, open every door that's closed to you, by the sounds of it?
Well, I must say, it's been, I'm really happy with how it's worked out, but it was a long journey, and I thought it wasn't going to work out, but it has, and I'm very happy with Shirts and Soldiers. Yeah.
Emma Willis, thank you very much, and that's all we have time for. And a big thank you to my guest, Emma Willis, whose business activism is helping our injured heroes find their way to a new future. And on this Remembrance Sunday, where we remember those who have given so much, it's great to talk to an entrepreneur who is making a difference. It's an inspirational story of building a brand based on the pursuit of perfection, where smart clothing has delivered a very smart business indeed. So if you're looking for more in the way of the perfect fit, join me for the next Capital Conversation. I'll see you then.